I trust we are all doing well. My name is Beatrice Boachi-Yadom, and I'm the Grants Manager at the African Women's Development Fund. And I have the honor of being your moderator this afternoon. And so a few housekeeping issues before we start. As you might all have noted, everybody is on mute. This is to ensure that we minimize interruptions during the presentation. So please, if you have any question, if you have any comments, any contributions, kindly use the Q&A section. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you see a Q&A section that you can use that or use the chat. We will be following the chat, and so we'll pick all your comments and your questions. Thank you very much. Also, for our sisters who speak Arabic, please look on the bottom of your screen. You'll find interpretations there. Click on it, and then hello.
Hello, Beatrice. Hello, Beatrice.
Great.
We lost you for a
Can you
small
hear
time.
me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm sure you didn't hear part of it, but my name is Beatrice Boachi-Yadom. I'm the Grants Manager at the African Women's Development Fund, and I have the honor of being your moderator for this afternoon. A few housekeeping information. As you might have noted, we have muted all participants. Is to ensure that we don't have a lot of interruptions during the presentation. So please bear with us. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please use the Q&A or the chat section, and we will be monitoring that and we'll pick that up. Thank you so very much. For our participants who want to listen to the webinar in Arabic, please look at the bottom of your screen. There is an interpretation section there. Please click on it. You will find Arabic and click on Arabic. Also, please note that we'll be recording this session, and it's for learning purposes. We'll be able to make it available to those who are not able to join us. And so we'll be recording this session for people who want to listen to it later on. So before we start the session, I want to introduce a few of the AWDF team who are with us this afternoon. This afternoon, we have our Director of Programs, Ponto Mafite, with us. We also have our Director of Operations, Gertrude Bibianokwashi. And then we have some grants team members with us. We have Mary Akukuma, who will be helping us with the tech this afternoon. Thank you very much, Mary. We have Rose Boabing, who would be doing some presentations. And we have Gifty, who will be supporting us. We also have sisters from other departments. We have Lydia with us, our communication specialist, and we have Mavis, our finance officer, with us. And so there's a crack team of AWDF staff here who will be supporting this webinar. And so all your questions, please put down all your questions and all your comments in the chat and in the Q&A section, and we'll do very well to respond to them. So at this time, I'm going to call upon Ponto, our Director of Programs, to welcome all of us to this session. Ponto, please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. And I am delighted to be with you here, joining you also from Ghana, as are my colleagues. We've had an incredible response and real interest in this call for applications. When I last checked, we had over 450 people on this call. So welcome to you all. As Beatrice mentioned, I am the Director of Programs, and I work with all the colleagues at AWDF, but particularly closely with the grants team. And they are excited to be open for business. And we wanted to take a couple of hours to share a little bit with you about our upcoming cycle, We hope that by the end of it, you will have improved your understanding of what Awdf application process entails, that you will have increased your confidence in terms of using our online platform, Awdforce, which we will take a walk through shortly. And also, we want this to be an opportunity for you to have some of your questions answered. So please, as Beatrice has already mentioned, if you have questions, kindly put them in the Q&A section. If you put them in the chat, because there are so many of us on this call, they may get lost in and we won't be able to respond to them immediately. Please be reassured that we will also be looking through the questions that we get and developing a sheet of frequently asked questions, which we will put so that if we aren't able to answer your specific questions now, hopefully we will answer them then. The other thing that we'd like to ask is, given that there are over 450 individuals on this call, that during the Q&A, please try and keep your questions as relevant to as many people as possible. If your question is very specific to you, we might suggest that you contact us later. But with that, I would like to hand back to Beatrice, and she will lead us through the rest of the next section. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ponto. Thank you so very much. And so we have a poll that we are going to take quickly, and Ponto is going to help us with that. And Ponto, please, are you going to share it with us?
I am indeed. I've just put a message in the chat box. To the rest of my colleagues, could you cut and paste that message? Because as people are typing in the chat, I think the message is going further up. But while they're doing that, what I will be asking you is to click on the link, which will be shared, and to enter the code, which I will also share again, and then to ask you to put one word in that explains what motivates you to do the work that you do in women's rights. So if we could do that, just take 1 minute and just enter the words that inspire and motivate you to do the work that you do in women's rights. So to a colleague, hello?
We can hear you, Ponto, we can hear you.
Sorry, my computer has just rather unfortunately frozen. So to any of the colleagues, would you be able to cut and paste the link and the code that I shared earlier in the chat? And then the participants will be able to enter into the Menti poll.
That's right, I've done that, thank you. And I'll continue to do that as it goes up.
Thank you. So, sorry, just to confirm, because my computer keeps freezing. Thank you. So everybody, could you try and find the link in the chat and then enter the code, and then that, once you've entered the code, you should be able to access the poll, and in there input your 3 words, one each that describes what motivates and inspires you in your work on women's rights. Yeah. So Is the poll working, colleagues?
No, we can't see it. You were trying to share it, but I think it didn't connect, so we can't see it.
I can see that it's working for some because there is.
Also, it's working. It's working. I've done it.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. So, are you seeing my screen?
No, please.
Okay, sorry about this. Let me just share my screen again. Okay, and what you will hopefully see is as you're entering the words, you can see the range of motivations that have been identified. And though those words that are in bigger letters are the words that come up the most. So empowerment, equality, justice, passion, development, those are the ones that are staying almost consistently as the biggest motivation. So if you haven't had an opportunity to input, while the poll, I'll leave the poll open and then we can share that after the event so you can see the range of motivations that all of us on this call have. So I will now hand you back to Beatrice, who will give an introduction to an overview of AWDF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ponso. So I would share my screen quickly. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll give you a short introduction to AWDF. I'm not going to assume that all of us on the webinar know about AWDF, and so this is a short introduction to AWDF. AWDF was founded in the year 2000 by three brave African women, Bisi Adeleye Fayemi of Nigeria, Joanna Foster of Ghana, and Dr. Hilda Kadria of Uganda. These three women came together and thought of putting together an organization that will be able to support the work of women's rights organizations on the continent. And so from the date, you can see that that small seed that was planted in the year 2000 is today 21 years old. And so we are celebrating our 21st anniversary this year, 2021. So please watch out for our anniversary activities. Our mission is to mobilize financial, human, and material resources to support the transformative work that is being done by African women and women's rights organizations on the continent. And we are hoping that through this, we'll be able to create a world where all African women live in peace with dignity and where there's equality for women. So what are the pillars with which we work with? We work on grant making, we work on capacity building, we work on movement building, we help with knowledge creation and management, and we amplify women's voices. And to do this, we have some strategies. Our first strategy is to resource African women's organizations and women's movements to promote and protect and realize women's human rights. And we do that through our grant making. We also strengthen the capacity of African women's organizations and African feminist leaders. And we do that through our specialized training courses, but we also provide grants in which organizations can use to procure their own specific capacity building needs. We also help to deepen knowledge and learning concerning African feminist and women's rights issues. We think that African women are a pot of knowledge and that we should be able to put out that knowledge there, and therefore our knowledge and learning management department help with realizing this. We also promote African social justice philanthropy because we think that as Africans, we do give a lot and we should be able to project that and to be able to mobilize that to help with women's rights. We also contribute to changing the narrative around African women's rights. We all know that usually the narrative around African women is not very, very positive. And so one of our tasks is to help change that narrative and to put out that very, very important information about the African woman out there. And in doing that, we also help in building knowledge through either think pieces, through our convening, or other methods that we use in ensuring that knowledge is made available and the knowledge that African women know are also made known there. Who do we support? At the African Women's Development Fund, we support all kinds of women's rights organizations, from the local to the national to the regional. And so it could be that small women's rights organization in the far too difficult to reach community, or national organizations that are working on advocacy or other issues, as well as organizations that are working at the regional level. And so we support all kinds of organizations that are led and managed by African women. And so for us, the issue is that it has to be led and managed by African women. So over the years, AWDF has awarded almost 59 million US dollars. And for the year 2020, we are awarded over 8,900,000 US dollars in grants to 106 organizations. And so far, the African Women's Development Fund, we have reached over 1,400 women's rights organizations in 44 African countries and 3 Middle East countries. And so this is our geographical reach so far, and we are hoping that we'll be able to cover the rest of the continent as time goes on. And so if you have any questions, please put it down in the Q&A and we would respond to that. So at this time, I will call upon my colleague Rose Boabeng to talk to you about our grant making, for which we are gathered here. She's going to give you more information about our grant making. Rose, please take the floor. Hello, Rose. Are you having connectivity problems?
Hello, Beatrice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, so share your screen. Thank you.
You need to share something.
Okay. All right, so I'm sharing now. Good afternoon to everybody. Beatrice has said it all. She has said a lot about AWDF. So I'm just going to top up with key aspects of our grants. So this is just a highlight to give you a gist of what we do and what our grants making processes entails. So at AWDF, our key mandate is to resource, amplify, and sustain the work of African women's rights organizations and movements in Africa and in 5 countries in the Middle East. So we work in Africa and then selected countries in the Middle East. So when we say, Beatrice has already defined women's rights organizations, but let me just re-emphasize. These are organizations who are led and managed by women and who are undertaking some interventions to empower women. So if you are not an organization that is led or managed by a woman, then as per AWDF policy, we don't classify you as a women's rights organization. And then for the 5 in
what you are sharing.
you can see.
Resume share, let me see. What do you want to share? This one. Was it already open? Let's stop sharing. This is it, right? This is it. Yeah, so share. Jane, can you see it now? Okay.
Hello. Apologies, I was having problem with connectivity. Can everybody see the
Yes.
presentation here?
Yes,
Oh,
I can see now.
very sorry. So I'll just continue. So the 5 Middle East countries are Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, and Yemen. These are the countries we work in the Middle East, in addition to all the countries within Africa. So we also support movement because at AWDF, we believe in collective action. So we support organizations who come together or mobilize to undertake certain interventions to empower women or to promote the rights of women. So these are the movements that we support. They mobilize around certain key areas. And then we work in 3 major thematic areas. That is body and health rights, economic security and justice, leadership and participation. For these thematic areas, we have various focuses within the thematic areas. So for instance, under the body and health rights, we have SRHR, that is sexual and reproductive health rights. We have HIV and AIDS. We have non-communicable diseases and others. And then when you take economic security and justice, we have access to resources, that's and specifically land and inheritance. We have livelihood development, entrepreneurship development. We have climate adaptation and climate justice. And then when you take leadership, participation, and peace, we also have supporting organizations through democratic and governance processes, building the leadership of organizations, and facilitating women's participation in peace processes on the continent. And then within the broad themes, we have other cross-cutting themes. So we support organizations who are working to strengthen or to empower women facing multiple discrimination. And then we also encourage organizations who are working with young women because we believe in intergenerational leadership. You know, we want women to also take the mantle to do the activism on the continent. And then we also encourage the use of technology. You know, as we could all see in this COVID-19 times, it's technology that is facilitating the kind of we encourage organizations who are also using technology to do activism. And then we also use arts, culture, and sports to engage wider audience. So organizations who are also using this strategy to engage wider audience, we also encourage them. And then that we have 3 main types of grants. That is the main grants, the Leading from the South, and then the World AIDS Day and the 16 Days grant. So for this particular cycle, it's open for the main grants and the LFS. The LFS is advocacy based. And then we have 3 categories of grants within the LFS. The Yala, which is the smallest, and then the Anansi and the Pamoja. So these are differentiated by the limit of the grant. And then the world is this within the main grant and the LFS grant, one can apply or can have a component to implement the World AIDS Day and the 16 days. But if not, then there's a point in the year where we also open calls for the World AIDS Day and the 16 days. And then we have 2 cycles in a year. We make grants in 2 cycles within a year. And these cycles are tagged to our board meeting, which is basically the first cycle is around May, April and May, and then the second cycle is in October, November. So please take note. And then for one to qualify, you need to meet a certain criteria. So these are some of the criteria you need to meet before you'll be able to qualify. Please take note of this criteria. An organization must be 3 years and above before you can apply for a grant. And then you should be operating in Africa and the specified Middle East countries, the 5 countries that I mentioned earlier on. And then the organization, as defined initially, should be led and managed by women and then be legally registered in whichever country you are operating in. And then the organization, we don't also support political and religious entities. And the initiative or intervention must be for the benefits and working with women. And then an organization can also apply for up to 50% of your 2020 income. So for instance, when your income is 20, your annual income is 20,000, then the maximum you can apply is 10,000 euros. And then we have procedures, laid out procedures which governs our grant making. So one has to ensure that there is transparency and fairness within the process. And in all our processes, from the application to the approval and the management stage, we ensure that all the processes are fair, they are open and transparent. And then we ensure that whichever grant we award should be open and fair. The project should ensure that they are open and transparent in terms of accountability and the way you use the resources, because resources are scarce. We want to give a lot, but we don't have that much. So whatever little we give you, you ensure that you are using it judiciously to meet what kind of objective you set for yourself. And then we also found at all levels of change, small level, we found small organizations, we find medium organizations, and then large organizations. When I say large, I mean organizations at the national or the regional level. And then the small organizations are the very grassroots organizations who are also making change at that level. And then we encourage proven methodologies, that is workable methodologies. So whatever methodologies you are using, ensure that they are in such a way that it will help you, achieve the change that we are all aspiring to. And then we also encourage innovation. You have to do new things and then in new ways to ensure that the objectives will be achieved. So you use new methodologies, exciting ones, to increase your chances. And then this is just an overview of what our grants making is like. So for instance, in 2020, we open call as we have done now, and then we received 1,760 applications. And then out of the 1,760, 591 applications were eligible. There are those who met the criteria that has been set. And then 106 out of the eligible applications were approved. That is 18% out of the 591. So this should give you an indication of how competitive the entire process is. So as you are all applying, you should ensure that you really, take cognizance of all the criteria that has been set. You read all the information around the opening to ensure that you put in a competitive or a compelling application that will be able to attract the kind of response that you are looking up to. So at this point, thank you very much for your time on this session and for listening to us. So if you have any question and answers, as Beatrice said, you can indicate them in the question and answer session and we'll respond to it after the entire process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Rose. Thank you. Please, if you have any questions, please put them on the Q&A and we will try and respond. At this point, we will be looking at the Awdf application platform, which is called AwardForce, and I'll call upon my colleague, Belinda, to give us a tour of the platform. This is to help us to be able to use the platform more easily. Belinda, can you please take over, please?
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Belinda Amankwa. I'm the Programs Assistant at Awdf. I'll be taking you on a quick tour of our online platform. Our online platform is powered by Good Grants, also known as Awdf. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute so we can all see. So I believe we have all seen our call for application. The link to the online platform can be found in the call for application. If you haven't also seen the call for application, then please visit our website, awdf.org, for our call for application. I'm sharing my screen now. I have opened the call for application, which gives a brief description of what this call is about. And beneath that description, you find our online application portal. Please click on the online application portal. So it will take you to the homepage of the platform. This is what you will see: the Awdf logo and a welcome note. There is also the language option. If you are Francophone, please click on the Française button here. If you are an Anglophone, the system is already set up in Anglophone. That's the default language, so you don't need to click on it. So when you open the online portal, please register. For all new entrants, we would advise that you register. It is only through registration that you would have access to the online application. So for the register, you enter your name, your last name, your email address, or your telephone number. Please note that the email address you enter at this section, a confirmation email will be sent. If you enter a telephone number, then an SMS will be sent to you, but we encourage that you enter an email, because we will be using the email you share here to be sending you updates and any other information about AWDF. After entering your email or the telephone number, you have to create a password. Please note that the password has to be a 12-character password in order to be accepted, and you would have to confirm the password here. Please note that you would have to take note of your password, because when you log into the system and you start your application, if you are not able to complete your application and you close it, when you come back to the portal, you'll be required to enter your password again. Without your password, you will not be able to gain access to the application you were initially working on. So please, when you create your password, please take note of the password. After entering the password, and please read the privacy policy and cookie policy, and also terms of service, and then go ahead to register. You register here. After clicking the registering button, you are going to receive a confirmation email in the email or telephone number you provided. When you receive the confirmation email, it provides a link that will bring you back to the platform in order to log in. So after the confirmation email, you will come back to the platform and log in at this site. You can see my screen where you can see Kwejobelko at Gmail, and then you enter the password that you created. After doing that, please log in and then you'll be good to go. So when you log in, this is what you see. This is the initial page. At the left-hand side of the page, we have the guidelines for AWDF online portal, which I will encourage you to read, because that is a guide on how to use the online platform. There is also a frequently asked questions. Just take a quick look at it, open it. When you click on the frequently asked questions that has been underlined, it's going to take you back to our website that has a number of questions that prospective applicants usually ask, and we have provided answers for all the questions here. So that I would encourage you to take a look at our frequently asked questions and note the responses we have provided here. After that, please come back to the portal and click on the how to use the AWDF online grant portal. Here is a quick guidance on how to go about the system. It has spoken about your need to register and then log in, and also to select your preferred choice of language. After taking note of all this, then you can, if you are confident with how the system works, then you can click on My Applications, which is beneath the how to use the AWDF online portal. So I have clicked on My Applications, and this is what pops up. There's an important information here which would encourage you to note. It has the deadline for the application, which is the 14th of April 2021. Please note that after the deadline for the application, the system will shut down, and so you will not be able to enter your application. But if you are able to submit your application before the deadline, you'll be able to come back to your application to make any changes if you want to before the deadline. But you can only do that before the deadline. Once it is 14th April 2021, you will not be able to come back into the system and therefore your application. At any point of your application, if you have any questions, the AWDF team is available to support you. Please send us an email at awdf@awdf.org or call the number you see on your screen here, and we'll be available to assist you. There's also a short guidance note here that would advise that you take note of. You may edit your application after submitting, which I've already mentioned. There's also a note on your personal contact details. Please make sure to enter your personal details accurately, because we'll be using that details you enter to contact you when you are awarded the grant. So please make sure to enter the details accurately. Also, there is a button here. Please ensure you have read the guidance documents available here. That blue here. Please click on it and you'll be able to download the application guidelines. This will give you the opportunity to read through the questions that you'll be expected to complete. And so you can prepare your answers beforehand before you submit your application. And also note that with the type of grants, there are amount limits. For the Leading from the South project, which is basically advocacy, but this time allows for some sort of service delivery, but you have to ensure that the service delivery component is not more than 20% of the total project budget. So yes, it's mainly focused on advocacy, but you can include a bit of service delivery in it, but the service delivery component cannot be more than 20% of your project budget. For the Leading from the South project, there are 3 types of grants under that. We have the YALA. The maximum amount for the YALA is 50,000 per annum. But with the YALA, you can apply for a maximum of 3 years. So 50,000 for the first year, 50,000 for the second year, and then 50,000 for the third year. For the Anansi grant, the maximum is $200,000. You can only apply for a maximum of 2 years. The YALA is for a maximum of 3 years, but the Anansi is for a maximum of 2 years. The Pamoja, which is also a maximum of $500,000 per annum, is for a maximum of 2 years as well. So you cannot apply for a YALA for a 3-year, for a Pamoja grant for a 3-year project. It has to be a 2 years project. Our sisters in the Middle East, please also note the eligible countries which have been listed here. There are 5. We have Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, and Yemen. So after taking note of this guidance note, you can start your application by clicking on the orange button, Start Application. This will take you straight to the application. So when you click on Start Application, the first page you see is the first section you see is the details section, which asks you to enter your grant type. So if you're applying for Leading from the South, if you're also applying for main grants. Please note that for the main grants, it is for annual grants only. Currently, we are not doing multi-grant for main grant, but note that AWDF is also committed to grants. You can apply after the end of your project. You can apply, reapply again, and then we'll support you if funds are available. So you choose the type of grants, the name of the organization, and then you click Next, Save and Next, which will take you to the next section of the application. Then you come to the eligibility. Oh, just a minute, let me just create. Please take note that we have provided guidance notes by most of the questions. And so when you select the type of grant, you see that a note pops up on your right-hand side. It states that if you're applying for main grants, the maximum amount is 100,000 per annum. And these are only 1-year grants. Then you go ahead to create or to enter the name of your organization. I'm just going to create this so that I can carry on with the process. Yes, then you come to the eligibility test. So we have, my colleague Rose initially took you to the eligibility criteria for AWDF. In the process of the application, you would have to take the test as well. So it asks the questions and you have to provide answers to it. Please note that at any point of this in this stage, if you receive the not qualified message, then it means that you are not qualified to apply for AWDF. And so we encourage that you do not proceed to the next stage of the application process. So you need to take the eligibility test in order to continue with your application. So I'm just going to give you a brief of what it's like if you choose the wrong answer. So are you a women's rights organization? Here I said no. And so the system would send a message that you are not qualified to apply for a grant under AWDF. So at any point at this stage, when you see this message, please do not proceed with the application. So after completing the site, if you did not receive any disqualified message at any point of the questionnaire, then you can save and go to the next page. The next page is about the organizational information. Here you are to provide the contact details and information about your organization. So name of the organization, the address, and the primary contact person, the alternate contact person, and country you are registered in, and all the information we would require for the application. Please, there's a Excel document here about your organizational structure. Please note that as soon as you click on the here, this the organizational structure would download directly into your downloads on your device. So after clicking here, you would have to go back to your device, check the downloads, complete the sheet, and then come and upload it by clicking on the select file. Then you'll be able to upload the file. With this question, we are looking forward to understanding the leadership and staff composition of your organization in terms of the gender. And so we have created the sheet to provide that kind of information. After this stage, you come and upload your file and move on to the next phase, where funding and financial systems. So here we are looking out to understand your financial systems, the structures you have put in place, the processes for payments, and all that. And also, we have asked the question about your income for the past 3 years. Please, if you have conducted your 2020 audit, and have completed that process and have confirmed your total income for 2020, then you may provide your total income for the past 3, that's 2020, 2019, and 2018. But if you have not conducted your 2020 audit, then please provide income for 2019, 2018, and 2017. You can only provide the income for 2020 if you have conducted or completed your 2020 audits. And so this section of the application is just about your financial systems and your funding. We also want to know about your donors. And so just go through the questions and provide responses for it. Also, I'm just drawing your attention to the notes by the side. It provides guidance for the questions. So if you do not understand any part of the question, please look at the right-hand side of it, and we have provided guidance. If after reading and you still need further clarification, please send a mail to awdf@awdf.org, and we'll be available to assist you. And in this section, we have provided a section for you to upload your audit report. So your latest audit report, if you have conducted your 2020 audit report, then you'd have to upload your 2020 audit report. But if you have not completed your 2020 audit report and your latest or your most recent completed audit report is 2019, then please upload your 2019 audited information. Please note that for grantees, for applicants, it's important to download or upload your 2020 or your audited accounts. It is one of the mandatory requirements in order to access your grants. So it's very important that you upload your audited accounts, your most recent audited account. And if you do not have an audited account and you have an independently examined account, you are also free to upload that. Or if you have financial reports that you submitted to your management or your board, then you can also submit or upload that as well. So please take note of that. It is the audit account or the independently examined account is a mandatory document. Without that, your application will not be reviewed. So from the funding and financial system, you proceed to your project itself. So here is where you take us through the proposed project. So AWDF has 3 teams. So under which of the teams does the proposed project fit? You can select as many as apply. The cross-cutting themes my colleague Rose spoke about, you can choose any. So this page is basically about your project. We are also looking to understand your impact group, the people that are going to directly benefit your project. And so we have provided a guidance on what we mean by direct beneficiaries and indirect beneficiaries. So by direct beneficiaries, we mean someone who is directly involved with your project and benefits from it. So depending on your project, this could be people who participated in your training, women or girls who assess the service that your project is providing, or women and girls whose capacity you built, or women and girls who receive livestock if your project was about livestock. So people who have directly benefited from your project or who you are targeting to benefit from the project, this is where you enter such information. Also, we are interested in the indirect beneficiaries who might benefit from the project. And so by indirect beneficiaries, we are looking for people who are not directly connected to the project, but will some way benefit from it. So this could be other members of the community or from the area or family members of the participants of the project. Most projects are not planned around indirect beneficiaries, and so they are more difficult to describe precisely. For example, family members of participants directly involved in your project or community members in your area that the project is being implemented are considered as indirect beneficiaries. So please take note of the targeted indirect beneficiaries who are likely to benefit from the project, and then give us the specific number you are targeting. And so the question goes on and on. At any point in time, if you do not understand anything, please reach out to AWDF and we'll be available to assist you. We are also interested in knowing the outcomes of your project, why you want to embark on that project. And so by outcomes, AWDF has provided a definition of outcomes, which is on your right side. So AWDF defines outcomes as medium-term results created through the delivery of outputs and the contributions of various partners and stakeholders. Outcomes provide a clear vision of what has changed or will change in a particular region, country, or community within a period of time. And so whatever you are planning to do or whatever change you are planning to achieve, that would be your outcome. But please ensure that your outcome is SMART. It has to be specific, it has to be measurable. It needs to be achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And so we have provided examples, illustrative examples of what SMART outcomes are and what outcomes are not SMART. And so please take note of it and ensure that the outcomes you provide are SMART outcomes that can easily be assessed and monitored. And so we have made provision for 5 outcomes if you have up to 5, but if you have less than that, you can provide that as well. And so for every outcome, we are asking that you provide the activities that you are planning to carry out under those outcomes in order to achieve the change. And so if you have listed outcome A, maybe I'm going to use an example of a SMART outcome, that you are going to see a 50% increase in current number of women elected in decision-making positions in decision-making positions such as maybe the local government or district government in your community. And so if that is your outcome A, then under that outcome, what are the activities you are planning to undertake in order to achieve that outcome? So you state outcome A, and then list the activities beneath it. You come down to outcome B, then you list the activities beneath it. And so how many, the number of outcomes you provide would be required to provide activities under that. There's also a section about past grantees. And so if you have received funding from AWDF at any point, we have provided a section where you will tell us about that. And then you provide information about how much you received and the impact you made under that. Under this section, we have also provided a guidance note. So this is just to help you remember the maximum limits for each grant type. And so if you come here and you are providing or stating the amounts that you are requesting from AWDF, there is a guidance here to help you at the right-hand side of it. And so if it's Pamoja, it's 500,000 per annum for a maximum of 2 years. If it's Anansi, it's a maximum of 200,000 per annum for 2 years. If it's a Yala grant, a maximum of 50,000 per annum for 3 years. And so please take note of that, since that will influence how much you are applying for. Also remember that how much you can apply for also depends on your past income or your previous year's income. And note that you cannot apply for more than 50% of your previous income. So please take note of that. We will check your income against the requested amount in order to provide you a grant. There's also a section beneath this side which makes room for your budget template. So please click on the here. You see the blue, click on the here, and then the budget templates will download directly into your downloads on your device. So after clicking on here, please go back to your device, check your downloads, and complete the template, and come back and select upload the template on the system. And that will be it. And then you move on to the monitoring, evaluation, and learning section, where you will tell us about your plans of monitoring your project, how you have monitored your past projects, and any learnings from that. So that is it for the monitoring, evaluation, and learning. We have provided guidance. So if you do not understand the questions, please read the guidance on the right side of the page. So after the monitoring, evaluation, and learning, you come to references. You'd have to upload a reference letter in support of your application. It is a mandatory document. And so the reference letter has to come from either a donor of your organization or an AWDF grantee. And so please do what to upload your reference letter. And you also have to provide the contact information of 2 additional referees in the table below that we can reach out to. And so please remember to complete the table. It is a mandatory document in order for your application to be processed. So after providing the details, there's a checklist, just so you do not miss anything. The mandatory documents that you'd have to submit have been mentioned in the box here. So the completed project budget, make sure it has been uploaded after you submitted it. Your organization's registration certificate, please ensure to upload it. Your most recent organizational audited accounts or independent examined account, please ensure to upload it. Your reference letter in support of your application, and then the 2 contact details of the additional referees, please ensure to provide that information. And also, please ensure that you have uploaded your completed organizational structure. So these are the mandatory documents. Please note that we will not be able to review or process your application if you do not provide any of these stated documents. So please take note of it. And there's an optional document. If your organization has a prevention of sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment policy or procedure document, please upload it. But this is an optional document. We acknowledge that not all organizations have this document, so it's not a mandatory document. Your application will be reviewed and assessed even if you do not have this document. And then you go on to sign off the application. By signing off, you have to provide the name of the contact person who is authorized to apply on behalf of your organization, and then state the position of the person, and then you can choose to preview your application, so you make sure you have entered the right responses. After previewing, then you can click on submit application, and then you will receive a notification that your application has been submitted to Awdf for consideration. If you submit your application before the deadline date, which is the 14th of February, you can come back to your application and make any changes and then resubmit. Please, when you come back to make any changes, remember to resubmit. If you do not resubmit, then it means that we are going to receive the original application that you submitted. And so if you have to ensure that you click on the resubmit button if you come back to make any changes, then you submit your application, and then that will be it for now. So this is our online portal. It's very simple to use, but if you have any questions, if you have any challenges with the system, please send us an email at awdf@awdf.org, and we'll be available to support you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Belinda. This has been a very clear presentation, and I hope that our participants were able to follow. At this point, it's the question and answer section. And because there are a lot of us, we will not be able to open the floor for you to ask your questions verbally, but we take note of the questions that you have asked in the Q&A, and the team here will try and respond to as many of your questions as we have. We have quite some time. And so I would start with answering some of the questions. I have also tried to answer some of the questions in the Q&A, but I will answer some of the questions. Then the finance team, Mavis and Gertrude, will also answer some of the finance questions. Our director of programs, Ponto, is around, Rose is also around. So we would try and answer as many of your questions as possible. And so I want to start by answering some of the key questions that I see running through the questions in the Q&A. The first question I want to talk about is the difference between the main grants and the LFS. Many of you are asking for the difference between the main grants and the LFS. So the main grants and the LFS are all supporting the AWDF 3 thematic areas: body and health rights, economic security and justice, and then the leadership, participation and peace thematic areas. However, with the LFS, it is basically aimed at supporting advocacy activities. You are allowed to use 20% of it to support service delivery, but 80% of the budget that you get will go towards advocacy activities. On the other hand, the main grant is open. You can support service, you can support advocacy. And so the main grants allow you flexibility to do both service and advocacy. For example, if you are working on advocacy issues towards, let's say, providing a particular law for women who have been violated, for example, you would notice that as you deal with women who have been violated, who have experienced survivors of violence against women, you would notice that they would need things like psychosocial support, legal support. However, with the LFS, you will not be able to use part of the LFS to support them with the psychosocial support, meaning that you have to use income from your other partners to support the psychosocial support part of your project. However, with the main grant, you'll be able to freely do that. And so we are saying that with the LFS, you can only use 20% of the amount to support the service part of your project. For example, you want to train women in skills building. You will not be able to use LFS, but you can use main grants. And so that is the difference between the main grants and the LFS. You have asked if what to do if you do not have audited account. This also, I'll leave that to the finance team. Mavis and Gertrude, as soon as I'm done, please unmute yourself and respond to that question. You also wanted to find out what we mean by 50% of your income, being able to apply to us for up to 50% of your income. What we mean is that if last year your entire organizational income was 50,000 US dollars, then in this application that you want to submit to AWDF, your budget will not go beyond 25,000 US dollars. So that is 50% of your last year's income. So if last year your income was 20,000 US dollars, you can only apply for 10,000 US dollars from us. And if your income was 200,000 US dollars, you can apply for up to 100,000 US dollars from us. You also wanted to find out if an organization based outside Africa can apply for an organization based in Africa. Please note that once you are based outside Africa, you do not qualify to apply to us. However, if you have a partner in Africa and you want to support the partner in the application process, you are free to do that. It's your inter-organizational arrangement. You are free to support them. For example, indicating or completing the forms online is a challenge for them. You want to support them, that's fine. You want to support the way they talk about outcomes, that is fine. And so please do that inter-organizational arrangement and you can support them, but you cannot apply in their stead. You cannot apply and say, I'm based in the UK, I want to apply on behalf of an organization based in Ghana, for example. You cannot do that. Our mandate covers only Africa and the 5 countries in the Middle East. You also wanted to know if a current partner can apply. A current partner of AWDF can apply depending upon when their current grant agreement ends. We are expecting that this grants will be announced around July, thereabout. So if your current agreement ends in, say, April, please feel free to apply. But if your current agreement ends in September, then please wait for our next call, our next call, which will come up around July, but will be announced in November. You wanted to find out if organizations can form partnerships and coalitions and apply to us. Please feel free. And if you want to work with if you want to come together with an organization that we've been working with over the months or over the years to do a joint application, please feel free to do that. If you look at our forms, we have coalitions there. So it could be coalitions that have been there already or newly formed coalitions based on your previous working relationship. Please feel free and do that. You also want to find out if an organization is led by a man, but 80% of the staff are women, can apply. No, please. If your organization is led by a man, please, you are not eligible to apply to us. We work with women-led organizations, both in terms of management and in terms of board. So if your board chair is a man, you are not eligible to apply to us. But if your board chair is a woman, your executive director or your CEO is a woman or your head is a woman, then you can apply to us. This question is aligned to that. You also wanted to know whether a youth-led organization that works on women issue can. If it's a women youth-led organization, please, you can apply. However, if it is a male-led youth organization, you cannot apply. There is also a question around what success means to us when we are awarding grants, when we are choosing successful applications. So for the African Women's Development Fund, the first thing that we look at is our eligibility. You have to be eligible to apply to us, meaning you have to be based in Africa, you have to be women's led, you have to be registered and 3 years old. However, if you are not registered for a specific reason, if you are not 3 years old, but doing some kind of specific work, please see us and we can talk about that later. And then in addition to our eligibility criteria, we will look at what you are trying to achieve within your context. Is this issue a critical issue in your context, in your country, in your community? Is this issue a very, very burning issue there? If it is, what kind of project have you designed to address it? Is there research to show that this methodology you are using is impactful, can lead to the outcomes that you are proposing? We'll be looking at all that. Are you putting innovation into the project that you are designing? We'll be considering that. How clear is your outcomes? Is this something that can be achieved based on the activities you've set out for yourself? How are you incorporating learning? Learning is very, very important for us because we think that it's in learning that we are able to become better. And so we'll look at that as well. We also will look at whether you are trying to share learning with other organizations. For example, if you're a big organization, how are you supporting smaller organizations to be able to come out? We also are very, very interested in how you manage finance. What is your financial management system like? What are your financial procedures? How transparent and accountable is it? We'll be looking at that. And we'll also be looking at your ability to report back to us. Will you be able to report back both your narrative and your financial reports? Will you be able to do it very, very effectively? So these are some of the indicators we look at when we say this is a good grant for us. Ponto, do you want to take, are there any other questions you want to respond before I call the finance whilst I look at other questions?
No, I will just add to what Beatrice has shared, which was most of what I would have said. I think the other thing to bear in mind is that inevitably there will always be way more applications than we are able to fund. So even those applications that are eligible and even those applications that are doing work that is likely to be good and to be successful may not get funded. So another thing that we will look at is that we will look at things like geographical spread, because it is our intention for AWDF support to reach as many countries as we can, as we are a Pan-African organization, and also we fund in 5 countries in the Middle East. We also look to get a spread of funded work across our 3 themes. So across body health rights, across economic security and justice, and across leadership, participation and peace. And within each one of those themes, we also want to see a spread of different types of interventions, different types of approaches, so that we can have a more holistic portfolio. So just encouraging you to bear those things in mind in addition, that any funder will probably tell you, and AWDF is no exception in this regard, that we are never able to fund all of the applications that are either eligible or that we feel might be impactful. Thank you, Beatrice. I don't know whether—
Thank you very much, Ponto. Rose, are there any questions you want to answer?
Beatrice, there are a few questions that I captured from the chat box that I would like to address.
Okay, please go on.
Yeah, quickly. So one is, somebody says she couldn't get the countries of eligibility. So in Africa, we fund in all countries, but we just have 5 selected countries in the Middle East, as we mentioned earlier on. But for Africa, wherever you are located, you can apply to us. And then somebody was requesting that we share the call for application again. It's on our website, please, so you can check, and then you can check from the website. And then are there grants for organizations less than 3 years? As we said, we were specific on that. You have to be 3 years or more. We have few exceptions, but that one is dependent on the type of project that you are submitting. So ensure that you are 3 years or above, because you might not fall within that little or small window. And then somebody is requesting that we send the audio to that person, so the host will decide after the meeting. And then, is it possible to apply for main grant and LFS? I think it has been addressed. You can only AWDF, we support one at a time, so you can apply for one of either the LFS or the main grant. You can apply for multiple grants. And then, do you provide seed funding for organizations that are below the 3 years? As we said, that window is very small and it's for some exceptions. So you might not fall within that exception. You have to ensure that you are 3 years and above before you can apply. And then if you don't have audit report, finance will address that question as they come on board. And then there is the online system time. Belinda will also address that aspect. So if one person heads 2 organizations, can the person apply for the 2 organizations? So as I said initially, we support one. If you had 2 organizations, please, you can apply for one organization at a time because we don't support concurrent projects. And then do we qualify if we have no income for 2020? Beatrice, can you address that question? Do we qualify if we have no income for 2020? Yeah, and then somebody is also requesting that if the host can generate the questions and answers and then share to participants later. So Beatrice,
Hi, Rose. I was just going to step in and answer the question about the 2020 accounts. In the application form, we ask for the figures for your last 3 years of independently verified accounts. And we will ask you to upload, if not the 2020, because we understand many organizations are currently in the process of auditing or independently verifying their 2020 accounts. So we would ask you to submit your 2019 audited accounts or independently verified accounts.
Thank you, Ponto. Thank you. So I'll hand over to Mavis before I come in again. Thank you, Mavis.
Thank you, Auntie B. So good afternoon once again. So on the question of the audits, if the organization does not currently have an audited account, what we advise is that you submit your most current income and expenditure account or management account. So your income and expenditure account for 2020, if it's ready, or 2019, if it's ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mavis. Mavis, were there any other?
Okay, so I was answering the questions in the live chat. So if there is any unattended to question, but most of the questions on finance were around the same question on where there is no audited account.
Okay, thank you very much. There are a few questions that I've seen that I would want to address, then I'll go back to the Q&A and see. So somebody wanted to find out if we do support profit-making organizations. Please, we do not support profit-making organizations. Somebody also wanted to find out if we support organizations in Iraq. Yes, please, we support organizations in Iraq. The 5 Middle East countries we support are Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Yemen, and Iraq. So please bring in your application. And then the deadline for this call is the 14th of April. The 14th of April, so please note. And then to say that in the Middle East, we support national organizations. We don't work through international NGOs. We support national organizations. AWDF also awards grants twice a year. And so our call for application comes out twice a year. Our next call for application will be around July. So please watch out for the November call. So please watch out. However, in between that is our small grants call for the World AIDS Day and the 16 days. These are just small grants that we award to support the commemoration of the International World AIDS Day, the global celebration, and then the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And that is around November, December, but the call usually comes out around June. Those are small grants that we give to only small organizations. So it's not for the big organizations. It's for the small community women's organizations. And that is just 2,000 cedis for them to celebrate those occasions or to commemorate those occasions in their localities. So please bear that. I'm going back to the Q&A to see if there are any questions, burning questions I've not responded. Ponto and hi Francois, Ponto and Rose, please, if you find any questions that are strategic questions we have not answered, please let us know and we would respond to that.
All right, because I have seen quite a number of questions. People are still asking questions around the years, in terms
Around
of
the
number of years an organization should be in existence.
Okay, please respond.
I think we need to. As we have said already, an organization should be 3 years or above before they can apply to AWDF. We have few exceptions, but that one, the window is very, small. So please ensure that you are 3 years or above before you can apply for this grant.
Rose, can you just clarify whether that's 3 years registered or 3 years in existence?
3 years in existence, but you should be registered.
Okay. Are there any other burning questions? If there's a burning question and you raise your hand, we would unmute you to ask that question. We have about 20 minutes to do that, so we'll hear a few voices. Mary, please, can you look at those who are raising their hands and unmute one at a time? And then when you call them, they can ask their question.
Okay, sure. So Georgina Kwashi asking her.
Okay, can you please unmute Georgina? Georgina, please, you have the floor.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, but please speak a little louder.
I asked, but it was in Q&A, but it hasn't been addressed. Do you support a faith-based organization?
Yes, can I just say, I did reply to this in the Q&A to say that we do fund faith-based organizations. What we don't fund is organizations that aim to proselytize or evangelize or convert individuals to any one religion. So yes to faith-based, as long as they are not doing proselytization or evangelizing.
Okay, thank you.
Beatrice. Hi,
Yes,
Beatrice. Yeah, there was a question from Dorcas Coca. What is the maximum institutional costs allowed under LFS? Do you want to take that?
Okay, thank you. And so, okay, I'll let finance. Gertrude, are you there? Or Mavis? However,
yeah.
Okay, go on, Mavis.
No, Beatrice, this is Gertrude.
Okay, Gertrude, please go on.
Yes, I think so, there were some. Yes, we do have some level of flexibility in terms of the indirect costs, and it's up to a maximum of 40%. But we don't look at it in isolation. It depends on the amount that the organization is applying for, the projects that the organization is engaged in, and the organization itself. So all these are taken into consideration. The size of the grant that is being applied for, all these are taken into consideration. But all things being equal, we look at something not more than 40% for the indirect costs. An add-on.
Thank you very much, Gertrude. Mary, please, the next person to unmute.
Hello, Auntie B.
Okay.
Hello, Auntie B.
Yes, Gifty.
Yes, please. There are a couple of questions in relation to women-led. So if you could please clarify that. An organization that is women-led.
Okay, thank you. So when we say organization that is women-led, what we mean at AWDF is that that organization, the executive director of the ED of the organization must be a woman, and the board must be a woman. In addition to that, 70% of staff of management must be women, and 70% of the board must be women. And so more women should be in leadership of that organization. That is what we mean by women-led organization. Thank you. Please, is there any other person with a burning question who will want to speak? Mary, please, has anybody else raised their hand?
We have Liza.
Liza, please, you have the floor. Hello, Liza. You have the floor, please. Liza, please unmute yourself. Or Mary, are you the one who's to unmute her? Liza, I can see that she's muted. Okay, the next person, please, whilst we are trying to deal with the technicalities with Liza.
Okay, there's Esther.
Zita, please, there are some Francophone questions. Can you please answer in the chat for me, please? From Rosalind. There's a Francophone question from Rosalind. Please respond for us. Thank you.
Esther Bachetti.
Who, Esther? Mary, please, is it Esther?
Yes, please.
Esther, please, you have the floor. Please ask your question. Esther, please ask your question. I think they are having technical challenges. Liza, can you speak now?
Hi, Beatrice. Sorry, I have no question. I think I raised my hand by mistake.
That's fine. It's good to hear your voice, Lisa. Thank you so much. Esther, please, do you have a question? I can see Susan Kirima. Mary, can you please unmute her?
Yeah, I've allowed her to talk.
But I can see that she's muted. Can you please unmute yourself, please? Susan Kirima, please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Susan Kirima from Kenya. I am the Director, Regional Deaf Women Initiative. And my question is, if you have any call for proposals for the disability organizations, like, do you have any that would apply for persons with disability?
Thank you very much. Ponto or Rose, do you want to respond?
I'm happy to respond. So yes, AWDF would consider work for applications for work that is particularly led by women living with disabilities. We do particularly welcome applications for work that is with what could be defined as marginalized groups, and that includes women living with disabilities. It includes LGBTQIA+ groups as well. It includes sex workers. So any groups of women that have been traditionally marginalized, even within the women's movement, are encouraged and welcome to apply.
Thank you, Ponto. Any other person with a burning question?
When would be the, Susan is asking, when is the specific time that you would do that? Or we are competing with the other women who other women organizations who do not have disability?
It would be at the same time as all applicants are invited to apply. Just to sort of, reiterate my previous response that we are particularly welcoming applications from groups that have been traditionally marginalized. So we take that into account when we are considering the applications that we receive.
Thank you. Mary, please, a few people are saying they want to speak, and so we should unmute them. So please see if they have raised their hands. Please raise your hand so that we can find you and unmute you, please.
So there is Sophie.
Thank you. Esther, can we hear you, please?
Hello, Sophie.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay, Sobi. Good afternoon, Sobi.
Hello,
how are you?
I'm doing very well. Well, my name is Sylvia Modi, and from Nigeria, and I'm the founder of a White Springboard Initiative. Now, my question is, my organization, I founded the organization, me and my team, in 2018. But as a worker, I haven't gotten any grants. I have been self-funding the organization for the past 3 years, from 2018. So I work and I fund because of my passion. But approximately, unfortunately, I was affected by the COVID-19 last year, of which I lost my job. So we don't have any fund yet. So my question is, because of the amount you say we should apply for, and for organizations that haven't received any funding or support, what is the maximum amount we can apply for?
Quanto, please, do you want to respond?
Yes, so we are currently only able to fund organizations that can demonstrate that they have previously managed funds of any sort. So if I've understood your question correctly, are you saying that it wasn't just in 2020 that there was no income, but prior to that there was income? I just want to make sure that I've understood properly.
Yeah, the only income we have handled was that for the projects which were funded by me, and which we have evidence and results on ground.
And so sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the first project, which was the Young Women Non-Traditional Livelihood Options Skill program we did, was done by me, of which we have 3 presently beneficiaries who benefited from our programs and are still working, and they were funded by me through the organization.
So what we would consider is, obviously we would look at what the source of the funds was, because that gives us an understanding of what the systems and processes are internally for managing funds. So that's one part of the question. The second one is that we would look at, the most recent independently verified accounts, and we would be able to consider funding no more than 50% of the total income.
Okay, so it means, because I have an audited account for 2019, of which the money was minimal because it was self-funded. So that's why I'm asking. So, okay.
Yeah, have I answered your question? I don't want to, I'm happy to reply privately in the Q&A if that would be helpful, but yeah.
Okay, that would be helpful, but I think from your answer, it means we are not eligible since we've not handled any funding before. I think that's the conclusion I got.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you haven't managed funding, then yes, that would mean that we wouldn't be able to consider your application.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, pleasure.
Hello, Auntie B.
Yes.
Hello, Auntie B.
Yes.
Please, there's a question from one Mrs. Manai. It's in relation to transfer of funds to Somalia. Her question is, my question is if we can apply for the grants, but we are based in Somalia, since you mentioned in your website that you're unable to transfer funds to Somalia. So her question is if they can still go ahead and apply, or what other means they can.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, it's the government of Ghana which is unable to transfer money outside to Somalia. So it's not as if it's AWDF who does not want to transfer money to Somalia. It's a financial system, the government's financial system issue, and so it will be difficult for us to transfer money there. So we really will find a way of being able to. Okay.
Yeah. Can I add on a bit to that? Yes. As Beatrice rightly said, we are not able to transfer money directly from here to Somalia. What we would recommend is whether you would have an organization, other country, Kenya or in East Africa somewhere, who can act as a fiscal sponsor for you, and would be able to receive the money on your behalf and transfer to you. If you are able to do that, then we can consider. But as far as we are concerned, from here to being able to transfer directly from here to Somalia, our banking arrangements does not allow us to do that now. So the only option we have, which we would recommend in such circumstances, is fiscal sponsor, and would encourage you to look for that fiscal sponsor, because you will be liaising, even though we would want that information to be clear that that arrangement has legally been done to avoid any confusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gertrude. Are there any other questions?
Beatrice, somebody is saying that there are too many barriers for startups to access funding. Can you disabuse that aspect?
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, I'll hand that over to Ponto.
So we absolutely take on board what you've just shared, that there are some eligibility criteria that AWDF currently has in place that make it challenging for young or newly registered or typically very small organizations to apply for funding, and we completely understand that. There was a question in the Q&A about where AWDF receives its funding from, and we receive a significant amount of our funding, which is the funding that is supporting this particular cycle, from bilateral funders, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands and from the Canadian government. And sort of similar to you, we receive that funding based on a set of criteria and conditions that we have to be able to satisfy and demonstrate. So because of our contractual and reporting obligations to our funders, unfortunately, we are only currently able to support organizations that can demonstrate that they are able to manage the funds and to do the reporting in the way that we are then able to do that with our own funders. So we absolutely note it. As an organization, we are looking at ways to diversify our own funding so that we can access more funds that allow us to fund different types of organizations, including particularly startups. But that work is in progress and is, likely to start bearing fruit early next year, at which point we will definitely be looking at how we can support some of these organizations for whom our existing barriers are too challenging to overcome.
Thank you very much, Ponto. Thank you so much. There is also this issue around the 3 years, which is about the startup again. And I wanted to clarify that if you have been in existence for 3 years, but you've been registered for, say, 1 year, you need to be able to show to us or prove to us that you've been in existence for 3 years. And at that stage, we are able to consider you. But we need a confirmation that you've been in existence for 3 years. Thank you. Any other question? Does any other person have a burning question? We have about 10 more minutes.
Beatrice.
Gertrude, please go on.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of questions around those who have running grants and whether they can apply.
Okay,
is it about when the current grant ends, or maybe if you can give some time frames? I think it will be helpful.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Yes, so thank you very much. If you have a current grant with AWDF, you are unable to receive a second grant. We don't give concurrent grants. However, if your grant will end before our next announcement, then you are free to apply to us. So for example, this current grant, we are hoping that we'll be able to announce it at the end of July. If your current grant ends in, say, June, then you are free to apply for this particular grant. But if this grant will end in August, then I will suggest that you wait and apply for the grants that will be announced in November. We are hoping that our second call for the year will go out around July. So you can apply around that time for the announcement to be made around November. And so please note that if you have a current grant, you cannot have a concurrent grant unless that grant ends. So please note the timelines. Thank you.
We have Faustina.
Faustina, okay. Faustina, please ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I realized that you talked about climate change, adaptation, and all that. But so far, I've been following your calls for application. I haven't actually seen anything very much on women and energy access. There are a lot of women. I wanted to put together grassroots women working on renewable energy projects who have stalled because they don't have enough funding to expand or to continue the work they're doing in rural areas. Renewable energy is only in urban and city areas in Ghana, for example, but we need to get to the rural areas where the issues really are in food processing, in heating, and in cooking. I haven't seen any call talking specifically about that, energy access and women entrepreneurship in energy, and was wondering when there would be such an opportunity.
Thank you very much.
I don't know whether, yeah.
Thank you very much, Faustina. Rose, do you want to take that? Rose is our lead on climate change and adaptability and things. Rose, please take that.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I think you haven't clearly seen it because our climate adaptation interventions are embodied within our economic security and justice. So basically, we focus on food security issues. These are areas that are very relevant and pressing to women's needs. And we look at agricultural in terms of cultivation and then processing, how women can adapt to ensure that they are getting maximum output from this process. And we also look at land access and resource access. But if you have anything on energy, you can still apply because that is also a relevant area to women. But you have to ensure that, as we said initially, the intervention is very innovative and then the methodologies are workable. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Faustina. About 5 more minutes. Is there any other person who wants to?
We have Collins and we have Nancy at this one.
Collins and Nancy. Okay, so in that order. Collins, please, you have the floor.
I allow Nancy first.
Okay, Nancy, please, you have the floor.
Okay, good afternoon. Nancy, I think it's me myself. Please, I want to ask some questions for Queen Mothers. You know, Queen Mothers fall under the Traditional Council. And unfortunately, they are not even in leadership under the traditional council. But if they need to receive funding, they need to receive funding through that. I think last 4 years, they organized themselves and they received funding from USAID under the reward program to do a peace campaign before the election. And the funding was given to them through the traditional council, but they have to organize it themselves or manage the funding themselves. So in this regard, how do they request for funding under this situation? Since the leadership and the secretary, they have to do that through the traditional council. And even at the traditional council, it is the men that are there. So how do they qualify for such a grant? But it's possible when the grant is sent, they will be able to manage that.
Can I just say that it seems from what you've shared that the organisation that would apply and receive the funding isn't women-led. So unfortunately, it wouldn't meet our eligibility criteria. We understand the importance of the work that the Queen Mothers want to do, but in terms of the eligibility criteria, it's not clear that those would be met.
Thank you, Ponto. Collins, you have the floor, please. Hello, Colin. Please unmute yourself, Colin. Okay. Whilst we are waiting for Colin to sort out the technicalities, Mary, there's a Mary Wanderi who says, please check my question. Can you please unmute Mary Wanderi so that she can ask her question?
I think she has not raised her hand, so I'll check her question in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other person who has raised her hand?
Yes, a lot of people.
Okay, please unmute the next person, please.
Frida.
Frida, please, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Frida, I can hear you.
Okay, I've raised my hand for a long time. I'm happy to be able to speak.
Apologies, Frida.
Sure. Thank you. And it's nice to hear your voices, all of you. My name is Frida. I'm the Executive Director of Roots Kenya. I just want to ask, Roots was implementing a project in 2020, the year of COVID, let me call it that, in 3 countries, Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique. So in this new application, is there an opportunity? Can we apply to continue that project, and especially taking into account that there were, of course, COVID impacts that limited the scope as we had originally envisioned it?
Yes, Frida, that is totally dependent on you and how the other projects went. So please, you are free to do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have about 3 more minutes.
We have Dr. Skoka.
Okay. Yes, Auntie Dorcas. You have the floor, please.
All right, thank you. I'd asked in the Q&A what the requirements are for cross-country intervention. Supposing we want to work with an organization in another African country on a similar, is it, do you consider this as a consortium or a partnership or what? And how should the application go? That's what I wanted to know.
Thank you very much. It doesn't have to be under a particular. You can apply and work with other people by having a MOU with them. If it's an existing coalition or network or partnership, you can use that entity. And so you are free to use whichever entity will best serve the interest of the project that you are applying for.
All right.
But you
Thank
can
you.
apply as an organization and then have an MOU with other organizations.
Okay.
That's allowed.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so then last, somebody speaking?
Yes, in line with the last speaker, is there a minimum number of countries that you can work in if you're having a multi-country grant project?
No, please. No, please.
Although if the application is for work in more than 3 countries, I think we would have a number of questions depending on what the focus of the work was, what the intended outcomes were.
Okay.
So we'll listen to the last person.
So I can see Mary Wandery's hand now.
Okay, okay, so Mary.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you very much, Mary. You have the floor.
Yes, it's good to finally be able to talk to you. I've been trying. Now, I am the director for Living Positive Kenya. I was just asking, we trying to apply for the recent grant, and we were wondering what exactly it means, the slot on women, economic security and justice, because that's the one we think we fall under. Our second question was, we applied for grants in 2015 and we got a grant. Ever since, we've always received regrets. Is there something wrong with Living Positive or something? So those are our 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Rose, please take the economic security question and perhaps the second one as well.
Okay, so for the economic security theme, we normally look at projects. We normally look at interventions that are working on land access, food security, and then climate adaptation, entrepreneurship development, and the others. So if you are working in any of these areas, you can apply, depending on the fact that you meet the other criteria for eligibility.
Oh, all right, thank you.
And then financial inclusion is also part.
Women's
Thank
labor
you.
rights and all the others.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
And Mary, just to say that your having not been successful might just be the fact that it was a very competitive round or something like that. And so it might not be a specific thing with your organization. It just might be that. Thank you very much. And so at this hour, I want to give the floor to our executive director to say hello to us. Francoise. Okay, great. Thank you, Francoise, for joining us.
Hello, hello everyone. I'm very sorry I had to miss the first part of the meeting, but I've been here for a while and it seems like it was a very lively conversation.
Yeah, I just sent it, but now I think it's too late.
Yeah, hello. I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Mary, please mute the participants.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Colin, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Mrs. Jackson.
Francoise, please go on. Thank you.
Okay. I hope she gets a chance to
She
speak.
has asked her question already.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to be very short because I know you've been on the phone on this call for almost 2 hours. I just wanted to say I'm really excited to join AWDF and to work with all of you. I'm really excited by the level of interest that you have displayed in this conversation. And I just wanted to, honestly, I just wanted to say hello. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Francoise. And thank you very much to all of us on this webinar. And we have a last pool. Ponto, please, can you set the pool rolling? And even as the pool is rolling, I want to take this opportunity to say a very big thank you to all of you for joining this webinar. If there are any questions that you had that were not responded, please feel free to write to our email address, awdf@awdf, and we will try to respond to you. We would also try and put together the questions we had here into a frequently asked question and share that as well, so that if there are any questions that we missed, we'll be able to respond to those. But it's been a very, very engaging session, and grateful you were able to make time to join us. And we look forward to receiving those fantastic applications from you. We would take the pool quickly before we leave. Kwanto.
Thank you, Beatrice. I was hoping to run a Zoom poll, but unfortunately I don't have that option on my laptop. So I'm wondering, Mary, are you able, if I read out the questions, would you be able to set up the poll? Hello, Mary?
Hi,
Yes. Yes. Hello.
Sorry. Sorry, wrong Mary Wanderi. I'm speaking to Mary, our AWDF colleague.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Kuntu, I can hear you.
Yes, Mary, do you have the option to run a poll from your version of the Zoom?
It was the afternoon.
You want me to read out the questions?
No, I can't. I don't have an option to run a poll on the Zoom platform. So I'm asking whether you do.
Yes, please.
So Mary?
Yes.
Sorry. Mary?
Yes, hello, Kuntu, I'm listening.
So can you run the poll? Can you run the poll? Do you have access to the Zoom poll function?
Yes.
Okay. So could you set it up, and I will read out the questions for everybody so they can start thinking about them. So before we do that, just really want to thank all of you as participants for your patience. There were at one point over 550 of you on this call, on this webinar. We tried as much as we could to respond to your questions in the Q&A, to share with you the information on both applying to AWDF, a little bit about who we are, and also walking you through our online portal. As we mentioned, we will share a recording of this webinar, and we will send information on how you can access it. So for anything that you weren't able to catch, you will be able to read it. We will also be sharing the chat, and we will lift out any questions from that haven't been responded to. And we have also been tracking the questions in the Q&A and saving them so that we can develop frequently asked questions, which we will share on our website, which will hopefully respond to some of the themes of the questions that you've shared this afternoon. As we said, we do receive a significant number of applications, and we absolutely recognise the time and the energy that you all as potential applicants put into them. We do wish we were able to fund more, but we have to work within our means. So please do familiarise yourself with the application guidance document, because that will give you a bit more information on what we are hoping to understand in each of the questions that you respond to. So thank you for your time. Good luck with your applications. And if you won't mind spending 2 minutes just very quickly to respond to the following questions. Mary, if you set the poll up, I will ask the first question. And the first question is, sorry, the one question has 3 options. So the question is, how well did the webinar respond to the questions that you had at the beginning? So the first option is, it answered all my questions. The second option is, it answered some of my questions. And the third option is, it answered none of my questions. Oh, I now have. So the poll is now up. If you look at the ribbon at the bottom of your Zoom window, to the right of the Q&A option, you are able to select your one answer. Please vote now, and we will then formally close.
Hello, Kuntu, can I launch the poll?
Yes, please do, Mary. Thank you. So everyone, we'd really appreciate your feedback, because it will help us as we develop future webinars for potential applicants, and also help us to respond to the questions that you have. So while you're polling, I will hand back to Beatrice for the closing.
Thank you. And thank you for taking time to answer the poll for us. We are grateful that you came, and we wish you all the best. Please write to us if you have any questions, and we will do our best to respond to you. Thank you all very much, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you to my fellow colleagues at AWDF for making this happen. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Beatrice. Please keep doing the poll if you haven't done it already. And thank you all for joining us. And we're sorry we weren't able to respond to the number of questions and raised hands and chats that you shared with us. As I said, we will be collecting all of this, we will be analysing it, and we will respond with a sheet of frequently asked questions, which will be available through the AWDF website. So thank you again. And just an update on the poll, that currently 57% have indicated that the webinar answered all of your questions. 40% are saying that it answered some of your questions, and 3% are saying that it answered none of your questions. And so particularly to those 3%, if it would be helpful, please do send us an email, and we will try and respond directly to you through that means. So thank you, everybody. I think we can close the poll now, and we'll just do so by wishing you all the best in your future upcoming applications to AWDF. Thank you.
Like you're sharing your screen. You are not like but when you are sharing, and the document is good. Yes, when the document is good. Yes, you have to you have to select that to share. And one you have to pay.